I didn't like the job because it was after school, and I wanted to participate in after school athletics. It was in junior high school, and at that time I was competitive with my peers as far as athletics were concerned. I wasn't. When I went to Southern California, I wasn't competitive at all. I found that out in a hurry. But in that small town, I was competitive and had a lot of fun.
Where was this at? What was the force grove?
Milwaukee, yeah. Mom rented a house there. Boy, it was right next door to the high school. It would have been great if I'd have been going to high school, you know. And that lasted a year. And my relationship and Lois's relationship with Aunt Margie and Uncle Fusen was not good. Fusen was a crotchety old guy. I don't think I ever saw him smile. He was strict and I don't know. I was scared of him. And
did your mom sense this?
Yeah, sure. Lois and Juanita got into it all the time. And Margie hit Lois in the back one time with a hammer. Yeah, not a good thing. Anyway, they went to they moved to Salem, and I went out and stayed on the chicken ranch with Taveletts, one of the nurses that Mom worked with. She was a nurse, and her husband, of course, ran the farm. They had chickens and berries, and I stayed with them one summer, and Angora rabbits. And I stayed with them that one summer, and then when school started, I moved into town with Cleo and his family, who had Mom rented the house to. And
so they stayed in the house that your mom had?
Yeah. While I was living with Aunt Margie, Cleo and his family moved out from North Dakota during the Dust Bowl. And they moved just down below a street down below us, a little slope down from us into a regular shack, as it seemed to me anyway. And although I never went through the whole thing, basically all I remember of it was one big room, kitchen and a dining room.
Was Tolly older than you?
He's younger, a little younger than I am. But we were really good friends. We got along really well together. We'd go fishing, and there was a lake there, and was an old scow boat that the people that owned it didn't care if the kids took it out. Today, they did somebody to suit them, you know. But
That was before that time.
yeah, and we used to go fishing, and we had a lot of fun. And Cleo would get up once in a while with me to deliver my papers, and he'd go collecting with me. And when we got through collecting, we'd go down to the local drugstore and have a milkshake. He went collecting with me one time at a house that I always hated to deliver the paper to, because it's set way back off the road. It was a nice big house set way back off the road. They had a German police dog, vicious. And we went collecting, and the dog started at the door and, you know, jumping up and making a fuss, and Cleo ran. The dog came through that screen, and fortunately, I had a leather jacket, and I'd let Cleo wear that jacket that night. And that dog just mauled him in that leather jacket, tore the leather jacket. But of course the owners come on, got him off, and then took Cleo over to the doctors. Make sure that he was all okay.
Nowadays, on the way home from the hospital, you stop with a lawyer.
Yeah, sure would have. But the people took care of it, so it was nice. But
Did they take care of the dog after that?
gosh, Curt, I don't remember now. But living in Milwaukee was really fun. It was a small town, and you did small town things, probably like your boys have been able to do. We had a swimming pool, and we used to go swimming, and it was the first time I kissed a girl. Patty Schultz.
Schultz?
Patty Schultz. Her dad owned a sand and gravel pit, and he used to go fishing, and he'd come home and have trout fish dinners, and I was invited out, and I made homemade root beer, and we had homemade root beer, and I had a lot of fun. Just a great time with that group. We'd go on picnics, and we'd go out to a lake. It's where I learned to swim. We'd go out to a lake, and they had floats. Maybe from here to that chair, or 3 or 4 of them out into the lake. And
Were they made out of rubber? Or
no, they were wood.
wood floats?
They were wood, yeah. And I could dive off and come up on the other, and climb out the other one and go with the other one, and we'd do all right. But I couldn't swim. And I'm standing there getting ready to dive, and Patty pushed me. And so I didn't dive. I just went in like a rock. And I learned to swim. I learned to swim.
You were what? 13?
13, yeah. 13. And we went with her older sister and her boyfriend. Of course, he drove. They were older, so he could drive. But Cleo's family lived in that little place down below us, and Cleo was fascinated with our bathtub. He'd come up to our house and take a bath. He thought it was great, because they were taking a bath in an aluminum or a galvanized tub. And I was fascinated with the white gas lantern. Geez, it just lit up that whole house. Just bright as day, just almost like sunshine, I thought that was great.
They didn't have electricity.
There wasn't any electricity in the house. But, and as I think of it, I think it had an outhouse. I don't think they had a indoor bath. But then when I came back to school, Mom had arranged for me to stay with them in this house. Cleo's dad was on PWA, and he was working up in Oregon City, so he was generally not home during the week.
What project was it?
I don't know what they were doing. He ran a cat. He was a farmer. He knew equipment, yeah. And
This would have been 1930.
35 and 36. It was a 2-bedroom house, and Cleo and I and Donna slept in the one room. And we go out, and the bathroom was kind of on the back end of the house, and we had to go out the back door and into the bathroom. It was kind of a separate room. looks like it may have been at one time added on to the house. So we'd go out there and dress and come in and get in bed. And Cleo and I used to just pull all kinds of tricks on Donna. We put wet shoestrings in her bed and told her they were worms. We'd put cracker and cookie crumbs in her bed. Oh, poor Donna.
Where was Lois at the time?
Lois was in California with Aunt Nina. That following fall, then I came down, stayed with with Aunt Agnes. Cleo had a dog, and I don't know where I got it, but I had an air rifle. And
I think you probably bought it with your paper money.
could have been, I don't remember. That's probably true. We used to set up bottles, ketchup bottles and stuff like that. We'd fill them full of water and then start at the neck and work down to try to drain them. Because the pellets, or the BBs, Mom worked at the sanitarium, and they had lead weights that they put on the people's chest. And they were full of lead BBs. So we would use those lead BBs, and they would flatten out, but they would put a hole in the bottle so the water drained down to there. And finally, when you got down close to the end, then it'd bust the bottle. But I had a pair of banty roosters, a pair of banty chickens. They were panted banties. The legs had little feathers down on the legs. They're cute little dickens, and that rooster, boy, you couldn't get close to that hen. That rooster would chase you off. Yeah, and Cleo's dog would try to come after her, and that rooster would just run that dog around the block, you know. Cleo shot the rooster with a BB gun one time, and we talked about that last time I was up there. And he said, "Well, I did it because you shot Penny, his dog, with it." I don't remember doing that. But it was kind of tit for tat anyway. If he shot the rooster first, I shot the dog second. And if I shot the dog first, he shot the rooster second.
Whatever.
Yeah. But we had that was a good time, and in retrospect, here again, I kind of wished I had been able to stay with those people through high school. Those guys all went into the service together and stayed together.
They weren't very far from property, obviously. They had no running, no electricity. No.
Well, coming out here from the Midwest and during the Depression, and jobs were non-existent, you know. PWA, what can you say, you know? It's like being on welfare, except that they worked for it, which was a good program. But they had things to do. They built bridges. They built schools. I know the high school auditorium in our school was built by PWA.
Up there in Milwaukee.
No, in Huntington Park. Yeah. That high school there at Huntington Park High School was built by
The whole high school? Or
just the
gymnasium?
gymnasium.
They probably still use it.
Or, I don't mean gymnasium, the auditorium. As far as I know, they're still using it, yeah. But and I'm glad I'm still in contact with Cleo. We really had a good time when we were up there last time, and they invited us to come back again this next year, and he'd like to go around the Mount Hood, take a trip around Mount Hood Loop, spend a day doing that. And Cinderella, bless her heart, she's still living by herself. She's 90 years old, 92 years old now. They invited me to her 90th birthday, and Mary Ellen wanted me to go. But we were supposed to have gone down to Sally's at that time, and we did. We went down to Sally's. The family was getting, this was after we were first married, and the family was getting together again for the second time after they had been here. So it was important that we were there. Though I would really, she's just a wonderful person. Just really.
But you left them and went down to.
I left them and went down to Aunt Nina's, or no, to Aunt Agnes's. I went down in September and enrolled in school.
Took the train down by yourself?
Took the train down, yeah. And was really impressed coming down outside of Dunsmuir, where the train ran alongside the Sacramento River, and it's a young wild river up there. And it's a real deep green, and the as it hits the rocks and the rapids, it's white. And then where the minerals, the water coming in from the hill, from the sides of the mountain, hits a mineral deposit, and it turns a rust color in that rust and white and green. It was just really pretty. I was really impressed at the time about those things. Come down, and when we hit Corning, I remember going into Corning, that's where I first saw the palm trees and orange orchards, and I knew I was in California. I was kind of anxious to get here all right, and I lived with Aunt Agnes, and I don't know how we did it. She was living in what they called at that time a court. Was a three bedroom affair, a kitchen, or 3-room affair. It turned out to be 3 bedrooms. It was a kitchen and a little dining area, and a front room and a bedroom, and a bath. The bath was right off the bedroom. Agnes and Genevieve and Bea and her husband and myself were all living there. I slept on the couch. I don't know where Genevieve slept. I don't know where Aunt Agnes slept. I don't know where Bea slept, and I don't know where Bea's husband slept. I have no idea. And at the time, it didn't dawn on me. I slept on the couch in the front room, and I remember Virgil came in with his wife and his wife's sister, who was about my age at the time. And I'm laying there on the couch with in my BVDs, and they're threatening to pull my covers off of me, and I was holding on to that. Talk about being embarrassed,
14?
boy. Yeah, 14. Don't want anything to do about girls there.
That was about the time you met Mom.
Mom and I had a big debate about that. She said I was a freshman when I met her, and I say I was a sophomore, and I think I was a sophomore. Because I didn't know her my freshman year. No way I would have known her my freshman year, because I didn't go to church. I didn't start going to church until I moved over with Aunt Nina.
Was Nina the guy you going to church?
Yeah, sure. I went to church. Don and I went to church with Aunt Nina. Uncle Art took us up and come by and picked us up.
That wasn't within walking distance.
Yeah, after a while, Don and I would walk. When we went to Mutual and all that, we walked. Yeah, it was an easy walking distance. I was living with Aunt Nina at the time. And I always felt bad about that because things were it was a lot nicer living with Aunt Nina than it was with Aunt Agnes. And Agnes was living under pretty much poverty conditions, and they ate a lot of pasta and, things like that. And Aunt Nina and Uncle Art always ate well. Not pretentious at all, but we had good meals, and Nina was a good cook. And I always felt like that Lois got a bad shake under that situation, but the condition with she and Don, they were about the same age, and a boy and a girl, and after all, they only had one bedroom, and with Don and I, they were able to fix up that room out in the garage, so it really was nice.
You guys got along fabulously, didn't
Don and I got along pretty good. We'd argue and fuss. We did the dishes, and we'd take turns. And when you'd put the dish up, it had better be clean, because the other guy was going to, if he found a spot on it, it'd come right back.
Yeah.
But Aunt Nina kind of solved that problem. She said, well, you wash and dry one week, and the other one wash and dry the next week. Put a stop to that. But Don wailed on Lois at one time, and I took after him. And I caught him in the backyard up against the fence, and I said, what the heck do I do now? I didn't want to hit him. About that time, Nina stuck her head out the kitchen window, and she said, Lyle, you go over and play with Stanley, the kid next door. And I thought, boy, when Art comes home tonight, I'm gone.
Get it, huh?
They'd move me out of there, But
There wouldn't
No.
be much else. That was the end of the line, wasn't it?
yeah, where do we go from here, So I really tried hard to.
You probably knew it at the time.
Sure, I to do my share, to not cause waves, because I had a good home and I knew it, and I didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah, your grandma was working.
Yeah, she was working, and I surely didn't want to go out and live with Aunt Agnes. And at one time, Mom had a job just before the war. She got a job as a nurse in an industrial place, and she rented an apartment, and we moved in. And that was the Christmas that I don't know, I may have told you before that she asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I was 16 then, and I told her I wanted a pipe. And she said, be serious. And I said, yeah, I want a pipe. Well, she worked nights. I think she worked the swing shift. I think that's what. And she and Lois slept in the bedroom, and I slept on a Murphy bed. You know what a Murphy bed is? A Murphy bed, it looks like a closet. You open the doors and pull the bed down. That was a Murphy bed.
I remember seeing one of those someplace when I was a little kid, but I don't remember where. They have ironing boards that do the same thing.
Yeah. And when the Christmas that I went to Mary Ann's, she had a Murphy bed that I slept on. That Murphy bed. It had been Billy's room, and of course Billy was often married by then, and she'd made it into a sewing room. And she'd pushed things aside and pulled that Murphy bed down, and that's where I stayed. But Christmas morning I woke up, and there on the very top of the Christmas tree with a big red bow on it was a corncob pipe. I never felt so cheap in my whole life. That was the end of my experience with a pipe.
Never used it, huh?
No, never used it. I did, when I was in the service, I bought a pipe. And I put cotton in it, in the bowl, and put peppermint oil in it, and sucked on that. I could have put cinnamon oil or anything like that, just a flavor. And chewed, I had the stem all chewed down, and it was just a gimmick. When we went from Amarillo, Texas to Chanute Field, a bunch of us were playing cards on the train going up. And
Chanute was in North Dakota, wasn't it? South
no,
Dakota.
Chanute Field is in Rantoul, Illinois. Blanton, one of the kids in our outfit, his wife, mom worked in the she typed out meal tickets, so she knew when I left that I was going, long before I knew it. Of course, she told me that, And Blanton's wife worked in the commissary, and she had gotten him a meerschaum pipe. Do you know what a meerschaum pipe is, Curt? It's a clay pipe. And as you smoke it, the tobacco permeates the pipe, and it turns a rich cherry wood color. Nice pipes. They smoke nice. It's just really a nice pipe. Expensive. But in the commissary, you got a good price for them. You got them at a good price. Well, we were playing cards, and a kid from Texas, Willis LaRue, he's that fellow that you found the name on your files for. Remember that time when you had the telephone numbers, that CD? You found his address. I got in touch with him, and talked to him, and I wrote him a letter and never heard from him. So I forget that. I don't know what the problem was or what happened. I would have been happy to communicate with him, but I never heard from him. But LaRue had to go to the head, so Blanton said, "Hey, clean my pipe out for me while you're out." Well, the only thing LaRue had ever heard, it was just tap it, Crashed. Oh, Blanton was sick. He was really sick. He says, "Give me your pipe." Well, my stem was all chewed up and everything. He said, "I don't care. Give me your pipe." So I gave him that pipe, and I've never had anything. It was just something to suck on with that peppermint and stuff in it, and I never got another one. But that was, Mom really hit me right when she did put that corn pipe up there. But Lois and I didn't get along. It was just not a real good arrangement there for the two of us. We were teenagers, and it just didn't work out good. So I went back to Nina's, and Lois went back to Aunt Agnes's.
Lois stayed with your mom?
Did Lois?
Lois stayed with your mom?
No, she went back to Aunt Agnes's. Well, I think, I don't know what. I'll tell you the truth, Curt, I don't know whether Mom went back into nursing. I don't know what. I don't remember what happened there. She must have, because I used to go out. I'm wondering, I can't put a time on it. I can't remember whether that was, no. Yeah, that was before Dad. That was before Dad came down and they were married the second time. That was while I was still a freshman. Had to be. Because Mom was working as a head night nurse at this sanitarium. And when we came back, she went back out there. She went to work back out there. And I had the car and would go out on weekends and pick her up.
And that, okay, so, yeah, and then after that you went back with Nina.
And I went back, stayed with Nina and Art, finished through school. And then after I graduated from high school and was working, Mom rented a little house there on Templeton. It was a little house behind in the back of a big house.
You guys are lifting up my needle out there.
Melon, you're getting a little loud, Dolly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're picking it, yeah, we're picking it up on the mic. Anyway, okay, this is after you graduated.
She rented a house, and I had a bedroom, and she and Lois shared a bedroom.
Why didn't she ever buy something?
She wanted to buy in Bell Gardens. I said, no, Mom, you don't want to buy out here. You don't.
It would have been rough area.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to live out there.
Yeah, even back then.
Yeah. No, it was Tobacco Road and, the whole works.
Well, I can remember when I was a kid, Aunt Agnes lived out there.
Yes. Yeah.
The streets weren't paved, and there were a lot of ground and poor people, and dark and dingy. And
Yeah. No, it was a poor area, and it was not a place that I wanted my mom, nor a place that I wanted to live in.
well, let's take a break. See what they're up to. We left off with California and your family, and probably when you met Mom. But as we talk about that, what about school? What are the things you remember about school? Both in, probably ought to start in Oregon and then work your way through the years.
We there at the home, we went to school over at Grout Elementary. I went from there, of course, when I left the home, we went to Milwaukee. The first year in Milwaukee, I lived, of course, with Aunt Marjorie and Uncle Fusen, and went to Milwaukee Junior High School. Was probably a little more competitive in sports there than I would be in California, because the competition's so much greater in California than it was in. And it was a fun time. I don't know that scholastically it was a great success. I wasn't really.
Remember your teacher's name?
I remember one of the teachers' names. Yeah. Well, in elementary school, Mrs. Johnson, in a third or about probably fourth or fifth grade, and a music teacher in that same area was a Mrs. White, and in the elementary school or the junior high school in Milwaukee, one of the teachers, I think he taught history and was the physical ed coach, was a fellow by the name of Mr. Houck. Hauch, I think is how he spelled it, but I'm not real sure about that. But he was a nice guy. I don't remember too many of the, in fact, any of the other teachers that I had during that period of time.
What sports did you like? What were your favorite sports back then?
Back in elementary school, I could run as fast as any of the other fellows, but the only one that could beat me was a girl. And that's a bit embarrassing, but she lived at the home, and her parents were Finnish. Not only was she good at sports, but she was also good at scholastically. She carried good grades, and her penmanship was immaculate. I mean, she just had beautiful, beautiful penmanship. Her name was Rachel Hill, and of course, I was stuck on her, but she couldn't see me for dust. She was too smart for that, I guess. But she was a very nice person. One of the girls that I was stuck on when we were at the home, her name was Florence, and I used to chase her, threatening to kiss her. I don't know what I'd have done if I'd ever caught her. But
did she live in the home?
She lived in the home, but she ran away. And of course, once you run away, you're gone. She never came back. Another girlfriend, and here again, I used to chase her a lot, Dorothy Sturhoff. And here again, I wouldn't have known what to do if I'd have caught her, which I never did, of course. Not that I couldn't have, but that it was just a game you played, you know. One of the things, too, I remember about the home was we had a nice library there. I did, believe it or not, I did a lot of reading. Mostly history and Indian. Quite a few books on Indians a lot of fiction, Indian fiction that I enjoyed.
Is that where you met Zane Grey?
For reading. Yeah, probably Zane Grey, yeah. Because both, I spoke of the Mansfield brothers, and they were, they liked Westerns. In fact, their dad used to bring them Western magazines, you know, with Western stories in them. And in fact, Cecil, the oldest of the three boys, he used to tell us at night after we went to bed, he'd tell us Western stories. Kind of made them up himself, but he was good at it. I mean, he'd fall asleep while he was telling the story. It was fun. But as far as sports in elementary school, I was usually in the gym class. I was usually one of the captains of the team for if we played softball or football. I don't know if I was any bigger than anybody else because I really wasn't. In fact, I remember very visibly that coming back from school after one summer, I was probably the smallest kid in the class, and that was very disconcerting. And
especially with the girls shooting up.
yeah, and the way things change. It's amazing how things change over a summer period of time when you're that age, kids going to school.
It's
Here,
not all that hot up there in the summer, is it? Because it's on the coast.
no, it isn't. As I remember, it wasn't. It did not get really warm, and it was not unusual for it to rain during the summer. We used to, when we were at the home, about approximately a mile away was a park with a swimming pool, and we used to be able to get to go swimming maybe once or twice a week, and we would walk up to the park to go swimming. And I never did learn to swim up there. In fact, about the time I thought I could swim, and I just jumped in off the edge of the pool, and boy, just fortunately somebody happened to see me, and I come up once and went down again, and just wasn't making it, and they grabbed me and pulled me up on the pool. But of course, I learned to swim when we moved out to Milwaukee.
While you were at the home, do you remember anybody getting into trouble with the law?
No.
They were good kids.
Yeah, they were good kids. Of course, we were pretty young to be getting in trouble with the law at that age, between the age of 7 and 12. It's kind of, and we were.
That was a different time.
It was a different time, and we were pretty well shepherded, so to speak. In other words, the only time we were off the grounds was to go to school and church, so there was really no, I wouldn't say opportunity, but no chance for anybody to get into trouble as far as that was concerned, other than when we ran away. So you were pretty well. You were well looked after, so no, there was no chance for people getting into trouble. After I left the home, and when we came to California, there was plenty of chance, and there were kids that got into trouble. But even a kid that smoked at that time was looked down on, and we had a few kids that used marijuana, I think, when they were in high school. But here again, they were shunned. You looked down on them. You didn't want to associate with those kind of guys. Just in those times, reflecting back though on one of the jobs I had while I was in high school, I went to this fellow's house after I left school. Got out of school at night, and went over to his house and had dinner, and then we went down into town and picked up magazines and delivered them out to the kids' house, because kids went door to door with magazines at that time. And the last group that we delivered was in the heart of Watts, 2 o'clock in the morning in the heart of Watts. And
wouldn't do that now, would you?
Certainly wouldn't do that now, but certainly had no qualms about doing it at the time. We never ran into any problems at that time with that type of thing. We only did that on Wednesday night. We did it on a Wednesday night, and I had a paper out at the time, getting bed so I didn't. When we got through at 2 o'clock, I didn't go to bed. I just went down and picked up my papers, did my papers, and then went home and got in bed to get warm, and that was about the size of it for that night.
every week.
Yeah. It didn't last too long. But
That was when you were living with Nina and Art.
while I was living with Nina and Art, the fellow who had the magazine distribution was a member of the church, and that's how I got the job. We came down to California in 1936. I started high school, and Mary Jane. You remember Mary Jane and Ed? You knew?
Robinson?
Yeah.
They would be your mom's cousins, right?
They were Mom's cousins. There was
On whose side of the family?
on Grandpa Peterson.
Aunt Sylvia
Aunt Sylvia. Yep.
was Grandpa Peterson's sister.
Well, I think his mother was Grandpa Peterson's sister. Somehow there was 5 families of us that lived on that block there on Pulaska that were all shirt-tail relatives, all through the Scandinavian line. There was Uncle Walt,